Welcome to Beyond the Red Carpet. Today I am happy to welcome back Jay Osmond. Welcome back, Jay.
Thank you, Francine. It's great to talk to you again.
You know what we're going to talk about today is a lot of stuff from your past, because you've been on lately and we've talked a lot about your play, which we'll get into at the end. But in 1963, the Beatles came from UK to here to the US, and we exploded with Beatlemania. Then in 1971, the Osmond brothers and the whole family went from the US to Britain and exploded over there into Osmond mania. Were you expecting that at all?
Not at all. In fact, when we got off the plane at Heathrow, it was just like, it was craziness. There were all these people they have this video they showed us. I couldn't believe it. The whole airport was just full of wonderful fans, and they were screaming, and it was so loud that the balcony broke. And so we had thank goodness no one was seriously injured, but it was like craziness. And we thought, man, this is like surreal. What is going on? I mean, we had no idea it would be so wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Were you guys on your own plane, or were you on commercial?
Well, we came in on commercial, and then they got us our own plane where we flew all over. We went all over Europe actually, and and then we flew our own jet, and to different places, but what was so fun is that it became a whole new chapter in our life. It was what I call the whirlwind chapter, and it's where we took these wonderful fans, and also it was starting to really rumble over in America as well. But we took them with us, and this on a journey, basically on our journey. And that's what was so cool about my musical, is that it talks about what you just asked about, coming into Britain, and all of a sudden it was just like the whole world exploded for us. And that was what's so neat about my musical last year in the UK, is that it's just like a whirlwind. It just caught up, and it just kept going, and it was so successful. And I was so thrilled how it was portrayed. The actors, and they did such a wonderful job to portray my family as I saw them through my eyes, and the things that happened to us. And it was so exciting. I can't wait to bring it here.
Yes, hopefully. I'm not guaranteeing people, but hopefully next year when we get the final information, we'll get you back on. But now, when you were up there and you were idols, teen idols, whatever you want to call it, could you hear yourself sing? I mean, just all that noise.
It was like amazing, because our sound equipment people, the Clare brothers, they called them, they were also the sound equipment people for Led Zeppelin, and they told us that we were louder than Led Zeppelin, because we had to get over the screams, and because we had a different audience than they did, obviously, but they didn't have the screams. They were just loud. So we had to not only be loud, we had to get over the screams, and then on stage we could hardly hear ourselves. So we had to. That's why some of us don't hear quite well. But it was so loud, Francine. It was just hard to believe. It was deafening. That's really the only word I have.
And that was a complete shock to you guys. I mean, you didn't have that prior to 71. I mean, you had your fame, but you didn't have that real huge, humongous crowds, did you?
Well, I think it was 1969 or 70, we did a test concert in Cleveland and Cincinnati, and we had it was like amazing like that. It was like craziness, but it was smaller venues. But when we got over there in the UK, it was just amplified. And then when we came back to America, it caught on over America, and it was just as crazy and wonderful. And the only thing, we never had a chance really to get close to the fans then, like we did later on in our years. We had, because it was so fun to get to know the fans and hear their story. In fact, in the musical, there is a person named Wendy, and she represented the fans and how she grew up with us, and she walked her life right along with ours, and how they correlated. and coincided. It's and so many wonderful fans, or which we call friends, but they said they were just, that was their life. They were Wendy, and that was what made, I think, partly the musical so wonderful, is that they could all relate well to her.
I mean, these fans were amazing. I mean, I can only imagine what you guys went through with the girls, the screaming girls, and being from your family and your religious background and all that, you couldn't take advantage of the sexual revolution at the time. How did you handle that? I mean, were people girls throwing their panties up to you, like, you know, we have that for David Cassidy and all that other stuff?
Well, you know, like, we're very normal guys, and
I can attest to that.
thank you. But what we had were wonderful parents, and we had rules, of course, and of course the bottom line was the gospel. We believed so strongly, and we believe so strongly in principles of the gospel. So we had to take steps to protect ourselves, as well as, you know, in our little convoy there where we traveled in, and I call it the bubble, which I'm grateful for now, because so many people, you know, they get out into show business and if they don't have grounding, I call it grounding, and principles, you can really get lost in this world. And when all the fame and the fortune and the girls and everything were thrown at us, we had wonderful parents who taught us way back when we were little kids. My father, in which we call family home evening, every Monday we do that, and he taught us. He went through role-playing situations, and he knew way before the craziness happened what things would happen to us. And so he put us into situations. Says, now what would you do when this happens? And he never said if. He said, when this happens. He just somehow foresaw some things, and so we learned as young boys, and Marie as a young girl, what to do if. And of course, you know, nobody's perfect, but we made some right moves because of the training of great parents. And so I think, you know, as I grew up, I tried really hard with my boys to train them in situations that when this happens, you know, so you already make a decision before it happens. And so there's a great word we used. There are two words I used throughout my whole life. One was focus. That's when I didn't feel good on stage, or because I have like ADHD, I'm all over the place sometimes. And I had to do that when I played drums, my drum solo. I just used the word focus. Or when I was performing, it sent a message to my mind to focus and to not let my mind run. The other word I used was avoid. If I knew something was either tempting or hard, or kind of I got into some rough ground or whatever, I just said avoid. And so I'd move myself out of a situation. And I did that throughout my life. And so it blessed me and it protected me.
Well, it definitely did. And you are definitely well-grounded. I have to, I can definitely say that.
Thank you.
It was evident in your musical, and for anybody that followed the Osmond brothers, you all had different colors for your jumpsuits and for your outfits and your ties, everything. How did that come about? Did you pick your own colors? I know everybody's curious about how did you get green, and how did Alan get red, Alan red, I think, and there's orange for Wayne. How did that happen?
Oh, it was really funny because, well, back in 1969-70, we were performing over in Las Vegas, and we were working with Nancy Sinatra at it was then called the International. It then changed to Hilton. But right above us was Elvis Presley, and he had a penthouse where he would stay there when, you know, of course he lived there and on and off, and he would come down and watch us in the lighting booth in there. And so, and Jimmy, it was like, really, I guess he was the first what do you call it, Elvis impersonator, and he did the song, "You're looking for trouble, you came to the right place." And then I got a woman, and Elvis cracked up every time when you see Elvis up there, he'd crack up every time Jimmy said, "I got a woman." And then Elvis would watch us perform, and with Nancy and by ourselves, and he that was his he said that was one of the fun things he'd like to do, is come down and watch us perform. And so he invited us up to with Nancy up to his penthouse there, and he and then we had a fun game. You know, he was a pinball crazy guy, and he showed us some pinball. He felt like a brother to us. And then when he performed, we came over and watched him, and he brought us backstage, and he says, "Now, brothers," he says, "I'm a big fan, but," he says, "you got to lose the tap dancing. Okay, you got to lose it." He says, "And you got to macho up your act, okay? And so you need to, first of all, you all look alike. You need to differentiate yourself a little bit, like with colors, you know." And then he kind of took over like what we needed to do with our career. It was so fun.
So we can attribute all the colors to Elvis, basically. But how did you come?
Well, actually, he first showed us the jumpsuits. He says, now he opened up his closet and he said, "Now this is cool." And you know, he had all these different colored jumpsuits. He had all different colors. He says, "You see, what you need is you need to each choose a color and what you need to do. So you need to, first of all, look better than we wore these tight little what do you call it? Anyway, we were all, you know, we all had the same outfit and tight. And so he said, two things need to happen. You choose a color, and you need to put some karate in your act." And he said, "Don't do tap dancing anymore." So we stopped the tap dancing. And he got his clothes designer named Bill Ballou, who had come over, and he went over and like this. We measured for jumpsuits. And of course, anybody who has followed our family know that we made a quick change from in this early 70s to jumpsuits. You'll see hundreds of, you know, our jumpsuits. And so anyway, so he had us pick a color. He says, "Now," and so mine, of course, was, you know, blue at first, and then Alan wanted that blue, so Alan took blue, and so I kept green. Green was my second choice, but and then Bill Ballou's friend, who was the designer of the Ninja Turtles, said, "I like what you did with the Osmonds. I'm gonna give the Ninja Turtles colors too, because they all look the same." You'll notice about the same time, Donatello got Donnie's purple, Wayne, Michelangelo, you know, he got all the colors. So we all kind of changed at the same time, and it was really fun. But that's really how we all started using our colors, is because Elvis said, "You all look too much alike," you know, because we always made it was kind of fun for us to we did everything together so tight and harmony. We did barbershop, everything we did was like really perfectly in unison, you know, kind of. But he said, "You need to separate yourselves a little bit." We had these barbershop outfits on, and everything was really cool. But when Elvis came into our life, it made a big difference, and for the best, because he had our interest at heart, because he had been watching us, and it's too bad that he left too early from this world, because the year that he died, he was wanting to get together at Graceland and put a big barbecue together for us, and you know, it was his drummer, you know, in fact, Ronnie Tutt was his drummer, and he became my first drum teacher. And so it was so wonderful this year, in fact, that there's something that I'm going to be doing. We're going to be going to the Elvis this year to honor in Graceland his life. And so they're going to interview me as one of the people that knew him. And so I had this wonderful chance to get to play with the TCB band, his band, Elvis's band. And Ronnie Tutt couldn't play, so they asked me to come in. Ronnie Tutt, his drummer, he called in. He called in because he had broken his hip. So I came in and filled in for Ronnie Tutt, which was probably the greatest honor that I could do. And if you go on YouTube, if you look at TCB band at Buxton, Buxton, and then it has my name, it shows you the thing where I come up on stage and we talk to Ronnie Tutt, and we talk to James and to James Burton and others, and we talk, and we just have a fun time. And I think that was probably one of the highlights of my life, because it was, you know, first of all, I'm so honored to be asked to do this, and second of all, it was a probably at the highlight of my life, really, to do that last couple years ago, actually. But this year is going to be so fun because now we can go back into Elvis's life, and I'm going to tell some stories about what he was like, and you know, and how my impressions. I was only 17 years old when I met him, but but he you know, during the time when we met him, he had just lost his mother, and so he became very he really my mother took over a little bit as to try to help him. He was going through a rough time. He had just lost his mother, and he loved his mother, and he loved the Bible, and he talked to mother about the Bible and the Book of Mormon and everything. It was just wonderful, and my mother got to know him really well over the phone, and I got to know him as a big brother. It was kind of like, I call it, in fact, I would, if I were to say, how would you coin my relationship with him? And I would call him my cool brother. And he's the one who really got us with Chuck Norris. He's the one that got us with the way we looked, the way we changed. He got us he put us with a great choreographer, Jaime Rogers. He got our whole look changed after we met him. So anyway, that's a long way around talking about.
No, that's an amazing story about Elvis. Let another person who was very important to all of you was Andy Williams.
Oh gosh, he was amazing. Well, before Andy was, I think my greatest hero was Walt Disney. I was 6 years old, and it was because of Walt Disney really that got us launched into television, because he put us on his television shows. And then Andy Williams' father saw us and then said to Andy, "You've got to see these boys." So we came, auditioned, and he put us on, just like Walt Disney, put us on the next week. And we were with Andy Williams for 9 years. And there on that series, we learned more in 9 years than you can in a lifetime, because every week we had to do something different. We had to learn. One week we had to learn to play pianos. Then we had to learn to do tap dance. Ice skating. And then we had to learn to play. You know, that's where I learned the drums, really. But every week had to do something different, because we were known as the one take Osmonds. We had to do this perfectly, and that's what got us in that mind frame that Elvis tried to change a little bit. Andy Williams got us to where you have to do this exactly right and perfect, and then Elvis said, "You don't have to be perfect, but you just have to be good." You know, and oh, that's my dog.
Let's see her, Ruby.
I got to show you Ruby.
Yeah, let's see her.
Yeah, she's the cutest little thing. Come here, Ruby. Come here, baby. And I want to show you Ruby. This is Ruby.
Sweetie pie.
Yeah, she makes us laugh. Karen and I, she's just, every morning I let her out of her little cage and she runs through the hallway and then runs back and forth. She's great. Yeah.
Doesn't sleep in your bed with you?
No, she gets on our bed, but she doesn't sleep with us. She gets off and we put her in her little room back there.
Yeah, if I had her, I'd keep her next to me all night long. She's a sweetie. Can you give me any kind of fun story about Andy Williams? Because you gave me the Elvis one. Let's do Andy.
Okay, I'll give you one with it. I remember probably that sticks out in my mind the most. We were doing this song called "High is Better Than Low." In other words, it's a really tight harmony thing, and it had a lot of stairs on it and a lot of dancing, and so we really, it was a complicated number. And on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we really rehearsed it, got it right. On Thursday night was the dress rehearsal. That's the big night where we do it with cameras, and we do our suit clothes. It's a dress rehearsal. Friday night we had to shoot the whole thing, right? So it was on Thursday night where I was walking up and I'm trying to remember my steps and everything, and I slipped, and I was on the top, and I slipped and I fell off the stairs, and I bumped and I fall off, and I I cut this big. Yeah, I got skinned up really bad, and I thought, course, there's all these people there, and I thought I had ruined the whole thing because I was bleeding and everything. And Andy
Right.
said, "Stop!" Anyway, he stopped I had this big kind of head wound, and he took his handkerchief. I'll never forget out of his pocket, and he stopped the whole thing. And he came up to me, and he said, and he picked me up. I was only what 8 years old, but I was still 8. And he picked me up and he carried me, and he put his arm to, and he carried me and walked and carried me to his Rolls Royce. And he had this beautiful, or not only did I think I ruined the whole show, but I thought I was worried about ruining his Rolls Royce. And he put me inside it. He could care less. He said it was like a white, it's beautiful white interior and everything. And I had bleeding, and he had this thing on his head, and he took me himself over to the hospital, which is about a mile away, Burbank, right by NBC there. And he sat with me. My father had to be out of town for some reason that night, and he sat with me for like 2 hours while they stitched my head up. And you'll see a little scar right there. But anyway, and he says, "Don't worry, Jay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine." And because I was a worrywart kid, I didn't want to, and and then when I saw him in 2000, I can't remember now, 2008 or something, or I can't remember what it was before he died. I went over to see his show, and I came backstage to see him, and he gave me this big hug, and he says, "Remember," and he told me, "Do you remember that time you got in my car?" And and I thought, "Oh gosh, you carried this, you're worried about me getting your car." He says, "Jay, I love you." And just like that, "Jay, I love you." And I gave him this big hug. And a year later he died. And I'll never forget that kind soul. He grew up like an uncle. To him, I would say, like Elvis is like a cool brother, but Randy Williams was like a great uncle to me.
Wow.
And another person that meant a lot to me was Lasse Lundahl in Sweden. And he was the Andy Williams of the Nordic countries. He was like that. And he was another hero of mine. And he died just recently. And we went to, my wife Karen and I went to see him before he died. And he was also the one, if you ask any Osmond what our best time of life was, is probably, we would all say, in Sweden, when those summers, those 5 summers that we spent there. Because Lasse Lundahl, with father, he and father had told him, he says, "Let's make this the best time of the life, for my boys, because they work so hard." And he went into, he gave us lots of Hasselblad cameras, and he gave us all kinds of fun things to do and see. He was like our tour guide over there. And anyway, he was another hero of mine. There's so many wonderful people that I've met over the years, because on the Andy Williams show, every week there was like 3 different stars, like Barbara Eden. All these people that I had a crush on Barbara Eden. There was everybody. But there's Cary Grant. There was Dean Martin. There was Bobby Darin. Who there's John Wayne. All these people, and what was really cool, Glenn Campbell, he was another one. But all these people had such impact on my life, because I saw them as real people. I didn't see them, growing up. I looked at them as just real people, but what it was really neat is that most of them, all of them, loved my parents. They took to my parents, especially, I think, Glenn Campbell. He just thought they were just, and so many wonderful people. I could go on and on, because they saw father and mother as a stable force in our lives. And as you know, in show business, it's really not a stable industry. There's a lot of craziness that goes on, ups and downs, fame and then no fame. It's like you ride a roller coaster when you're in show business. And father and mother were such stable figures, and that these wonderful guests and artists, the big artists, really just took to them as their parents. Gosh, there's so many different stories. I could just go on. I wrote a book called Stages. I read and put some of those stories in there that
Yes.
that was so powerful to
Right.
me.
Well, in the couple minutes we have left, let me ask you to tell everybody what you're doing now. I'm sure everybody wants to get up to date with you.
Oh, well, my wife and I moved to Wyoming, and we just love it here because my father wanted to raise us here really when we were little. He really had this wish that he could have taken us up to Star Valley where he grew up, Star Valley, Wyoming. But we went to California, and so we never got a chance, but we'd visit here as kids. And so I'm now the fourth generation that never was here until now. So, but my great grandfather I was commissioned by Brigham Young to come and help settle this area. And so I've always wanted to come here as a kid, just kind of like, in the back of your mind, you say, someday I'm going to live there. And so we finally made that move, and everything's great except for the snow. I mean, I love the snow, but boy, it really snows up here.
Yeah, I grew up in the snow, that by you guys in Utah, and whoa, I don't like shoveling, that's for sure.
Oh boy, well then I'd be careful about coming to Wyoming because you do a lot of that. Anyway, we have a lot of cousins up here, but it's just been a wonderful experience to be at a place where there's so much history for our family. A lot of people think we're from Utah, which where I was born, but our roots really come from Wyoming and Idaho. And so but there's just a lot of I'm asked to speak now to the historical society up here, and so I just want to let our fans out there know that I'm so excited to share more about the musical, but when I can.
You will definitely be back when you can.
Yes, and when it comes to the U.S., I can't wait. And so
and you're bringing me into the audience, right? I mean, I'm going to be there to watch. I've only seen snippets, which were fabulous, but I would love to see the whole thing from start to finish.
Oh, Francine, I promise you, this is when it comes, I want to talk like this with you again, and I'll give you every little detail on it. And so I can't wait to tell you about it. And so it's so fun. It's just, it's the story about how I saw things in a music form.
Yes, and with all the music that you guys have given us through the years, soundtrack of our lives, basically, to many of us. But I am sorry to say that we're out of time this time around.
Fun to talk to. You're so fun to talk to. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, you'll be back, and we will talk more about the musical when it comes here to the United States. And everybody wants all that information, so hopefully we'll be the first to break the news when you're coming.
You betcha.
My thanks to Jay Osmond again. And for the viewers, I will see you next time when we take another look beyond the red carpet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
With over 30 years of experience in real estate and the mortgage industry, Darlene Mays provides knowledge and expert guidance to clients looking to buy or sell a home. Serving clients throughout South Orange County, Darlene specializes in the senior community of Laguna Woods Village. Darlene works with her clients to ensure the highest level of service, from the beginning of the process right down to the closing table. If you are looking to buy or sell, who you work with really does matter. Call Darlene Mays today.